home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
A minute after 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and welcome into the Extra Point, the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on 107.5 The Game. No Preston Thorne today. We do have a special guest, but I'm going to drag this out as much as humanly possible just for drama, bearing the lead. I'm sitting in the room with a couple of writers, and they're gonna bury me for this, but that's okay. Wes and Chris are here. We're going to talk Carolina, Texas A&M. We're going to talk about the quarterback matchup, one that's particularly intriguing to me, and then I have a fun exercise for all of us here. I prepped Chris for it. I did not prep Wes and our special guest because
you never do.
Well, I never do. I also, Chris is always early. I want to reward him for being early, so I gave him a little bit of a head start. But this will be a fun exercise as we look around the rest of the SEC. But before we introduce our special guest, let me go ahead and give you guys a chance to win some money. Otherwise, I'd forget.
It's time for your chance to win $100 and qualify for the $25,000 grand prize in our $25,000 signing bonus contest. Just text the following national keyword to 95819. Your national keyword to text is
Buy. B-U-Y. That's an easy one. You can buy stuff if you win some money. Buy. B-U-Y. Not B-Y. Not B-Y-E.
Text
B-U-Y.
that national keyword to 95819. Standard text messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. The $25,000 signing bonus contest on 107.5 The Game.
Speaking of buy, we do a lot of buy or sell on this show, and I want to come back to last week's buy or sell in just a minute, but it gives us an opportunity to talk a lot about Kendall. But today, talking about a different Kendall, talking about Gamecock Central's own Kendall Smith, who joins us now in studio. This is the first time you've been in the studio, Kendall, right?
It is the first time, and it's very exciting. I mean, I was telling Wes and Chris, I feel a little pressure being next to two superstars, but it's great to experience the 107.5 studio in person.
Have you been on the radio before?
I have, yes.
Okay, good. Well, I know you've been on. Have you been in a radio studio before? Is this what you were expecting?
So I've been in a radio studio before. Of course, not 107.5, and I like it. The decor is great. Love the color scheme. Very welcoming. I'm vibing with it for sure.
Got some signed footballs in there, some hats, like some little interesting historical artifacts. I think there's a plaque up here, and unfortunately, I'm in a different room from you guys. There's a plaque up here talking about how Barry Bonds is not the home run king that somebody made for Jay Phillips, which is pretty funny. So, yeah, we're going to have fun. We're really happy to have you here today. To rely on your expertise for all things Gamecocks, because Wes and Chris are normally, they're kind of the definition of fake it till you make it. And we appreciate what they do every day here on this station. But we're glad to have a real expert in here with us. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk about this Texas A&M game. Jimbo Fisher had his weekly press conference yesterday and didn't really hesitate in saying that Haynes King was going to be ready to go on Saturday, leaving me to wonder, what was the origin of the Haynes King foot injury? Might be out rumor. Is he maybe a little more 50-50 than Jimbo was letting on? Honestly, not even sure how much exactly it matters for South Carolina. But Wes, in light of that news, does that change at all how you're thinking about this Carolina game?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think obviously locally here, we know it's going to be a really good atmosphere. And I think the fans have kind of been re-energized by the win over Kentucky. So you look at this game, and if it would have been, a backup quarterback making a start on the road in an environment he probably hasn't been in, then I think that does change the equation. I think for A&M, their quarterback situation, even before injuries, had been kind of just up in the air, and they're kind of trying to figure that out. But you would imagine they would feel much better about having Haynes King as their starter than they would, just kind of throwing somebody out there for the first time. So I do think it matters.
I think it's funny because Carolina fans, after that rumor surfaced last week, were secretly hoping, not so secretly hoping, that Haynes King would be out and Connor Wegman would be starting. And I sort of get the impression, I think Jimbo's happy to have Haynes King in there because he's actually played a football game before. But I kind of feel like Texas A&M fans might have secretly been cheering for the exact same thing. Brent Zwerneman, who covers Texas A&M, was live tweeting the press conference yesterday, said Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher said Haynes King should be good to go, blah, blah, blah. The first reply from Aggie Boy 96 said, awesome. Another game of inaccurate throws, poor decisions, and maybe a long run or two. Any chance Weigman sees the field this year before he pulls a Kyler? So it doesn't seem like anybody, maybe outside of Jimbo Fisher's, super stoked about Haynes King playing this game for Texas A&M.
Well, I think it's one of those things where if you're a fan and you have not seen a player yet, you kind of let your imagination run wild and you think of the best case scenario if this guy plays. So until you've seen a quarterback go mess up, everybody's always kind of excited to see the next guy. And then as soon as they see them, they're like, oh, this quarterback's not perfect. And they see a few mistakes. They're like, if you're not winning, they're like, all right, let's see the next guy. So I think right now, I imagine if you went back in time, there was a lot of people at one point very excited about seeing Haynes King play. Mm-hmm. But, A&M has been notorious for getting 5-star quarterbacks and then just recycling through them all. They've had lots of guys transfer out. They've arguably at times had the best quarterback room in the country on paper if you just looked at the rankings, but it is not always obviously translated to the field.
Kendall, do you remember the first time Carolina played A&M in the SEC? It
was 2014, right? Yep.
I
was 14 years old.
Nice.
So I remember it. I was into college football at that point, but I was a little middle schooler then, and they've never won.
Right.
They've never won. So now at 22 years old, maybe this will finally be the week for South Carolina. It's been a good 8 years, and I was a young child at that point when they first started playing.
That was the last time that it felt like Carolina fans thought they were going to beat Texas A&M, and that ended up being the Kenny Hill, a.k.a. Kenny Trill, a.k.a. Kenny Thrill, a.k.a. this guy was in the Heisman, conversation for
1 week.
I was say 168 hours, and then he transferred. It was just South Carolina. But in any case, Carolina fans, you can understand, justifiably concerned about what another unknown quarterback for Texas A&M might be doing. But Chris, just the idea that this might be the most winnable game that Carolina has had against Texas A&M. Bill Conley's SP Plus metric actually has Carolina as 0.4 of a point better than Texas A&M on Saturday. I don't know what that's going to look like in the final score. But this is just not where I was expecting the fan base to be heading into this game.
Yeah, I mean, A&M's still a super talented team. Like, if you just look on paper, it's a program that's littered with 5-star, high 4-star prospects. They do have some injuries. It's been kind of rumored, and we don't have great clarity on it. Jimbo really didn't address it that much, aside from talking about Haynes King at his press conference. Right. By the way, transcribing a Jimbo Fisher press conference. Wow.
He's if he were not a football coach, he'd be an awesome auctioneer.
Yes. He talks very fast. And because of how he speaks, like he'll start part of a sentence and then just kind of trash it.
Yeah.
And go on to the next part. So you're like trying to piece it together and help him out a little bit.
He doesn't speak with
punctuation. No, there's no punctuation at all.
Oh my God.
So,
he makes me look like the sloth from Zootopia. Have y'all seen that movie?
Yes, my kids have.
Okay, good. I'm glad somebody
It's a good movie.
Sorry, continue.
I actually have seen that one.
What'd you think, Wes? Review?
Yeah, I mean, it was very funny when the sloth. Is that the one where the sloth works at the DMV? Or is that a different
movie? It was
movie?
the DMV or a bank. I can't remember.
I think it was the DMV.
Okay.
All right, yeah. 7 out of 10.
But
Jason Bateman's in it, which means it can't be worse than 7.
Haynes King, Jimbo, when he was asked about him, he almost, I think Brent Zwerneman was the one that asked that question. And Jimbo had a look. He was almost like, why are you asking that? Or of course he's going to play, but he said the quote was, he's going, he's good to go. He said he's going, but he was asked about Connor Weigman later. And would there be a spot for him to play in this game? And Jimbo's answer was, we'll see. Now, does that just mean he's just doing the college football coach thing and saying, we'll see? Or is there a possibility that he does see action for the first time?
Did he just mean Haynes King was going to Columbia and not going?
No, I think he was saying he's playing,
okay.
But how effectively or how much, I don't know. But it looks like all indications point to probably, unless they're just pulling a complete okie doke on everybody, is that Haynes King's going to be at least starting this game. But he said that Haynes has practiced well. He said Connor Weigman has been practicing and has practiced well as well. That he said at the end, he just said, we'll see. So something maybe to keep in mind. Connor Wegman, former 5-star prospect, was the number 4 overall quarterback in his class, but has not thrown a college pass. And for an A&M team that is super talented, the kind of common denominator when they have struggled this year is that they haven't gotten great play out of the quarterback position. Haynes King made some big plays against Bama, also made some mistakes. And so they haven't really been very, very good there. And so obviously that's a huge storyline to watch in the game.
So is this the best chance Carolina has had to beat A&M?
I mean, probably. And so here, I'll give my stat.
Already? Let's go.
Already. Let's break it out. So 77. By the way, Saturday
Great
night,
number.
I will be going down I-77. Do not go through Olympia on Saturday night after the game. It's fair. But 77 from 20, make sure I get it right. The last 5 years, South Carolina has failed to reach 77 rushing yards against A&M in any game.
I already gave him the ding. I'll give him
I get a double ding.
77. Wow.
Yeah, last year was 71. And then in reverse order, 50, 45, 76, and 23. They averaged in the 2017 game, they averaged 0.9 yards a carry. So
wait, which year was that?
2017.
2017. Wow.
So
the one that sticks out in my mind as being the worst was 2019 when Joseph Charlton was the leading rusher at halftime.
Yep. I think and that was a 10-yard off a 10-yard
fake.
Was it? I think it was more like it was going to get blocked, so he tucked it behind his back.
Like the Ryan Suck up against Mississippi State fake where it wasn't a fake. He just made a play.
Yeah, he just made a play.
Yeah.
That was a great play, actually.
Ended up being, I think Rico Dowdle did end up being the leading rusher, but he had like 7 rushes for 12 yards.
Yeah, that sounds right.
They ran the ball last year. Like I'm looking at the stats right now. I swear they ran the ball last year for no yardage, but they actually ran the ball with their backs a little bit better last year than they did the couple of years before. Z White 8 for 59. That's actually a 7.4. Wow. Now some of that was very late. Remember they had a drive or two late in the game when Jason Brown came in. Okay. And
I don't remember South Carolina touching the football that game, to be honest. I don't remember a single offensive possession.
Marshawn Lloyd 7 for 25. Obviously, that's not good. That's 3.6 yards a carry. But you look and you see 31 for 71, 2.3. That's an awful number, but a big part of it is you have 3 for minus 29, which would have been sacks. So I do think, to Chris's point, if you're going to beat A&M, you got to be better on the line of scrimmage. And I don't know if you look at the rushing, the sacks, you look at the rushing yards for A&M. If you compare the two, how much Carolina has allowed in the running game defensively against A&M those last few years and how much they've not been able to run the ball themselves, I mean, it's easy to see why the game has been so lopsided. I mean,
well, the final score the last 3 years is like 130-30, right?
Yeah, you look at A-Chain for them, 20 carries for 154 last year. Isaiah Spiller, 18 for 102. I mean, they've just dominated the lines of scrimmage. And I know they've, I guess, lost some guys, but to me, that's been the complete difference in this series is that just the lines of scrimmage have been dominated by Texas A&M.
Yeah, well, so that brings me to what I feel like is an interesting matchup between these two teams that we'll get to in just a minute. 803-404-6100. Want to hear from you guys, thoughts that you have, early thoughts on Carolina and Texas A&M. For Wes, for Chris, for Kendall, for me, you can go ahead and get those thoughts in on the text line or the Love Chevy phone line, 803-404-6100. And you can get all of us on Twitter, at Pearson Fowler, at Wes Mitchell GC, at GC Chris Clark. Hey, I'm not used to this. What's your Twitter handle, Kendall?
Well, because there's 1,000 Kendall Smiths in the world, it's Smith Kendall __.
Smith Kendall __. Okay, very good. I'll try to have that down by the end of the show. Get all of us on Twitter. Get us on the text line. Get us on the Love Chevy phone line. We'll start to look ahead to a few more matchups between Carolina and Texas A&M next.
The early game with Bill Gunter and Jen Jensen.
Aside from you bragging that you picked the winner, I don't know if we mentioned who actually won the race or what it meant for the actual playoffs. we more discussed the fight.
Yeah.
And
that's why it would have been more block A material.
All right. That's why she's the producer, and I just sit here in my little
yeah. I don't ever make a producer mad. Just go with the flow.
You're a wise man.
The fight back and forth over the mic would probably not be what people want to hear.
On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with your CBS Sports Minute. It wasn't supposed to be like this at Notre Dame. Lost in the wonderment of a great college football weekend, the Irish fell to Stanford, who hadn't beaten an FBS squad in 11 tries. Combine that with the loss to Marshall and Marcus Freeman's first 6 weeks, feel like a decade. This is Damon Amendolara.
Buying a home? Rocket Mortgage will cover 1% of your rate for the first year at no cost to you, saving you hundreds, even thousands with Inflation Buster. For example, if you lock a 7% rate today, you'll only pay 6% for a year. That means more road trips, more date nights, more front row seats. Every month for a year, and your rate is secured for 30 years. Now imagine if rates drop within 3 years of your home purchase and you get exclusive savings when you refinance at that new lower rate. More home upgrades, more rainy day funds, more cash in your pocket. Save when you buy today and refinance tomorrow. Call 8337-ROCKET today or visit inflationbuster.com to start saving. That's 8337-ROCKET or go to inflationbuster.com.
For fees covered rate like date requirements and other terms and conditions, visit inflationbuster.com. Call 1-8337-ROCKET, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Just as you feel the effects of the summertime heat, your house feels it too. Lack of rain, high humidity, and random storms wreak havoc on your home's foundation, causing wall cracks, sticking windows and doors, mold, and musty smells. Mount Valley Foundation Services knows this and is ready to help. They'll protect and repair your home with permanent foundation, basement, and crawl space solutions. Schedule your free, no-obligation appointment today. Visit fixmyfoundation.com. That's fixmyfoundation.com.
Mount Valley Foundation Services, rock solid foundation.
Hey, if you've got a hole in your roof or you need a whole new roof, you need to call Mid-State Roofing, 356-1919. For nearly a quarter of a century, Mid-State Roofing has established its reputation as the leader in the roofing industry. Whether it's above your head or at your feet, perhaps a leaky foundation, 356-1919 is the number to call for all your roofing and waterproofing needs. The quality and craftsmanship of a Mid-State roofing system are tops in the industry, especially commercial and industrial roofing systems. If you own or you're in charge of a large building, warehouse, or industrial facility, then you're in charge of that roof. And at some point, a roof is going to need some attention. So the number to call for advice, service, results, and a commitment to customer satisfaction is 356-1919. See all that Mid-State has to offer when you click on midstateroofing.com. Tell them, Mid-State twins.
If you have a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
356-1919, midstateroofing.com.
Attention, anyone shopping for a new Jeep, turn up your radio now. Announcing the special order $1 sales event at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. Here's how it works. Visit Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone and order the exact Jeep you want. Put just $1 down. Plus, we'll give you a $1,000 special order discount. No limitations, no exclusions. Just order any Jeep model, any Jeep trim level, and it's yours for just $1 down and $1,000 off MSRP. Best of all, your price is locked in, and you're protected against a Jeep price increase. Other Jeep dealers are charging tens of thousands of dollars over MSRP. But right now, you can order the exact Jeep you want for just $1 down and $1,000 below MSRP.
Gotta go to Galliana.
$1 down, $1,000 below MSRP Jeep sales event at Galliana Chrysler Jeep on Greystone. I-126 Zoo exit in Columbia. Call 779-7300 or GallianaSC.com. Example 2022 Jeep Wrangler. $1 down, $618 per month for 60 months at 4% APR. Plus tax and tag includes $225 closing fee. Expires month end.
Locally owned Atlantic Windows and Doors has been making Columbia area homes more comfortable, attractive, weather-tight, and energy efficient for over 35 years. How? By distributing products from the best window and door manufacturers in the country. These products give you the best looks, the best quality, and the best value, all based on your specific needs. And everything is professionally installed by their dedicated and experienced employees, not subcontractors. Atlantic Windows and Doors. Visit them online at awdsc.com.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
20 minutes after 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Wes, Chris, and special guest Kendall Smith joining us today, mostly to talk about equestrian, she said, which is exciting. I don't know much about riding horses.
I've never rode a horse, but we can get into all Gamecock sports, whatever y'all want.
You're probably more qualified, or you're definitely more qualified to talk about that than I am. We'll set that aside. Can we also make today like a de facto AMA if people just want to like hit you on Twitter or the text line with random Kendall questions?
Yeah,
since we have you
do it.
here. People
Whatever
are much more
you wanna
interested in you
know.
than they are Wes and Chris. So
I'm not that interesting, but if anybody has a question,
well, Wes
me
and
know.
Chris, y'all were just talking during the break about how many jobs that you have. So people see you in a lot of places, baseball games, football games, I guess
13.
around
She has
campus.
13 jobs.
that's a
13
bit of an
jobs.
exaggeration.
So yeah, if y'all want, I don't know, maybe some tips on like work-life balance, or maybe that's not the thing to ask Kendall.
Yeah, I
don't
wouldn't
know.
ask me about that one, to be honest with you, but you can ask me about all of my jobs: hockey, baseball, football,
Hockey.
basketball.
Wow.
Hockey,
All right,
yes.
let's see. Which one of you Chris, what do you know about hockey? I was trying to size up which
Yes.
one of you knew less about hockey.
Ooh. I don't know. From what I know of Wes, we probably neither of us probably know a whole lot.
Okay,
Yeah, there's an icing call. I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
sure.
all I know. That's all
right.
I know.
I don't know what
From
it is.
NHL
Kendall
2006.
can explain it.
Yeah, we've got icing.
There's an offsides.
all the different penalties.
You're allowed to do
slashing,
anything to
tripping.
anybody, though, right? Like you can fight them, you can take off your skate and slit their throat. Like you can do anything in hockey.
So that would probably result in a
Be a little,
power play.
be a little penalty box
Yeah,
there.
that would
Penalty
be a
box
penalty
action.
box
I do know
moment.
what a power play is.
They have an equivalent in rugby. You know what it's called, though? When you get a
No.
yellow card, you can sit to the sin bin. That is amazing.
That's a real
I like
thing?
that a lot better
I
than the
like
penalty box.
that.
Yeah,
The
the sin
sin
bin.
bin.
Amazing.
Wow.
Okay, here's the real. You can't answer, Kendall, because you know, and I don't know. So I'm pitting Wes and Chris against each other. How many players are on the ice for one team at a given time?
Oh, come on. Chris is
And-
looking it up.
No, I'm not.
In
I'm trying to
hockey?
do something at the same time. I used to know that.
11.
For one team?
That is not correct.
Okay, yeah, no, that's not right.
Pretty confident.
Wes wins the trophy for knowing the least about hockey. I have a guess. Do you have a guess?
Yeah. God, why do I not know this? So sad. 6.
I'm thinking
Yes.
7.
You're right, Chris.
Yeah.
Is it really only 6?
I was counting up
Wow.
the positions in my
All
head.
right.
I'm like a goalie, and then I was thinking about the line changes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like 5 dudes.
So you have like
Good
what, like 2
job.
defensemen, 2 midfielders, and a striker.
Well, that's a little bit too much in soccer terms, but
Yeah.
yes, you would have 2 on defense and then go from there.
Great.
So-
All right, look at that. We're learning about hockey
We'll
today.
learn more about hockey as the season goes on. They need to come
Okay.
to Charlotte and watch me report.
The extent of my hockey knowledge is from the Mighty Ducks.
That's good too. That's a great frame of reference. All right, we'll circle back around to football here, but 803-404-6100. The next 35 minutes of the show are a Kendall Smith AMA. So if you have any questions, hit us in the text line. Just curious what people. I am curious what people want to know about you. So we'll see how this goes. I've decided that this Carolina Texas A&M game is the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme. It's 2 teams that were expecting to lean on their defenses. The defenses have been statistically underwhelming. It's 2 teams that I think had a like mid to low ceiling on offense and have underachieved, but have a feature back, Devon Achane, Marshawn Lloyd. Devon Achane has established himself certainly as one of the best running backs in the SEC. I think Marshawn Lloyd is trying to make that impression in his first year, getting the burden of the workload. Some questions about the quarterback position. It feels like 2 teams that are very, very similar in terms of the matchup.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And, Jimbo Fisher talking yesterday, he mentioned that South Carolina, in his opinion, now all coaches, except for Mark Stoops, are going to say nice things about the other team. And so he mentioned that they're playing well in all 3 phases. Of course, he pointed out how South Carolina has blocked 5 punts and that they're very sound on special teams. But he also singled out a few players specifically. And I joked about Stoops, but on offense, it was the same two players that Mark Stoops had pointed out. It was Spencer Rattler and Marshawn Lloyd. He talked a lot about how Marshawn Lloyd was running very hard and that he was a really good running back. Spencer Rattler, he talked about his talent level. And then defensively, a lot of generalities, but he singled out two guys that I thought had their best games of the season against Kentucky, and that was Jordan Birch and Zach Pickens up front. Noted that they had a lot of experience. So I think you're right. Like, A&M, they've had injuries, at quarterback. They've had a little bit of a revolving door there with Haynes King, then Max Johnson. Then Max Johnson gets hurt. And now it's Haynes King, and now he's maybe hurt, right? They haven't been very consistent there. They've had problems with turnovers. Like you look at the App State game. South Carolina had higher expectations on offense. I think they are beginning to meet some of those, actually. We'll see how the back half goes. But I think, with Spencer Rattler, there's a continual kind of waiting process for him to, maybe take that next step with what we know that he can do based on his talent level. So I agree. I mean, you mentioned the Bill Connolly statistics there. This is a couple teams that A&M has the talent advantage. Like we looked at the Kentucky game, South Carolina had the on paper talent advantage in that game. A&M pretty decidedly has it in this game, but they have some youth at some spots. And they just haven't been consistent. I think a lot of it goes back to their quarterback play and just being inconsistent defensively.
So two teams that are going to want to run the football first with their bell cow backs that both are, kind of leave something to desired in terms of the quarterback position. So Wes, that has me feeling like this is a game that's probably going to be 24-24 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, with each quarterback having an opportunity to drive down the field and get some points to take a lead. Spencer Rattler, Haynes King, who has the edge?
I would say Rattler in that case, especially in Columbia. Here's my thing with this game, though. Can South Carolina stop the run? I feel like, yes, this is an A&M offense that has struggled, but I think A-Chain and those backs are if you're South Carolina's defense and you have to circle something that's like, what do we need to most be worried about in this game? Like, you have a big whiteboard that just has A-Chain's name on it and a big old permanent marker circling it. So I look at it, this is an A&M team that strangely also has not been able to stop the run. They're 13th in the SEC in rushing yards allowed, but they're also only allowing 18.8 points per game. So their defense has not been awful. They gave up 42 to Mississippi State. Other than that, they've given up, like, I think 24 or less, I guess. So I think it's going to be somewhat low scoring on the South Carolina end. The thing that's going to decide if it's going to be like a 24-20 Carolina win or like a 31-20 A&M win is going to be the ability for A&M to run the football or inability to run the football. I think that's still a big concern on the South Carolina side.
Yeah, I guess to come back to Chris's point, you got to hope that Zach Pickens and Jordan Birch are able to carry the momentum over from the Kentucky game. Offensively, Kendall, what's been interesting, and I spent a lot of time in the 10 o'clock hour just trying to make sense of it because Spencer Rattler's numbers are not very good. There are times when the eye test hasn't been very good. And yet I feel like there is still a lot left for him to do. So what are you looking for from Spencer Rattler to be the difference maker for South Carolina this Saturday?
Well, it's funny because Chris was making fun of me a little bit last week when I put in my prediction for this game. I think that South Carolina will win this game, and I think it's going to be Spencer Rattler's breakout game this season. He's been adjusting into the offense, getting used to South Carolina, and we've seen, like you said, his struggles throughout the season. But for him, I just think it comes down to consistency. We've seen too many interceptions thrown from Spencer Rattler this season. He needs to settle down a little bit more, and I think this week with the bye week and the opportunity to kind of work on it and have a little time off, that'll be something that benefits him. So that's what I'm looking for out of Spencer Rattler, and I did predict that this will be his big breakout week for the Gamecocks, but I do think a lot of that comes down to just settling down, not throwing interceptions, and just being a little bit more composed in the pocket.
And I think it's interesting too, because as much as, Carolina's had an interesting toss-up game against Arkansas, an interesting toss-up game against Kentucky, it doesn't feel like Carolina has ever gone into the game feeling like, oh, you need it from Spencer this game in the way that it feels like they might against Texas A&M. Wes, to go back to your point, Texas A&M is going to have the exact same, except instead of A-chain encircled and permanent marker, it's going to be Lloyd. They're going to feel like if they shut down Marshawn Lloyd, which they're going to have an opportunity to do with a ton of talent in that front seven, they feel probably pretty good about their chances to keep Carolina in check. And to me, that's where Rattler coming in, probably needing to be the guy. Now, does that mean I think Carolina needs to come out guns blazing like they did against Arkansas? I do not. I still think they need to try to focus on Lloyd, but there are going to be opportunities for Spencer to make a couple of plays that I think are going to make a difference in this game.
Yeah, and I think A&M, from what I've heard, has some pretty good linebackers as well. So I think it's going to be important to have some balance. It doesn't necessarily mean that you just take the air out of the ball like you kind of did against Kentucky, and it doesn't, in my opinion, mean that you have to go out and just throw it 10 times in a row like Arkansas. I think this is going to be a game truly where you're going to have to do both. You're going to have some balance. And I'll be curious to see what is the offensive game plan coming off of a bye week. This is a staff that we have seen when they have had extra time to prepare. They have actually played really well, South Carolina has. At the same time, I don't know if that's negated by the fact that A&M also had an extra week as well. So they may have, both sides may have a few wrinkles in store for the other. But we have, I think we've seen enough evidence at this point, even though it's a somewhat small sample size, to know that Carolina, especially on offense, has been a little bit more efficient coming off of bye weeks, and they have a little bit of extra time to maybe put in new things or just work on whatever their plan is going to be for that particular week.
Other thoughts on Texas A&M, key matchups that you're looking for? Obviously, we'll have plenty more time in the back half of this week to talk about a lot of those specific mano-a-mano kinds of matchups, and I'll be very curious to hear from Shane Beamer later this afternoon, some of the matchups and key players that he'll be watching for on the Texas A&M side of things. 803-404-6100. That's the Love Chevy phone line number. That is also the text line number. However, you guys want to be a part of the show, go ahead and do that. And you can get all of us on Twitter at Pearson Fowler, at Wes Mitchell GC, at GC Chris Clark, at Smith Kendall __. Don't forget the second underscore. You're going to be tweeting at a different Kendall Smith somewhere else in the world. Have a fun exercise. We'll step aside from South Carolina, Texas A&M for now. The SEC East got quite a shakeup this weekend with Tennessee beating Alabama. South Carolina beat Kentucky. Kentucky beats Mississippi State. This is the part of the season where everything starts to get crazy. So I'll give you a little bit of time to prep, just the time that it takes to get back from the commercial break. But be thinking in your head, let's power rank the 7 SEC East teams through the first 7 weeks of the season next.
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
Chest up, engage your core.
At Misty's gym, boot camp gets pretty close to the real thing. She wants to spot a personal trainer with a military background.
I can cover this week's boot camp, but we need someone stat. Isn't your cousin a Marine?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
At EasyCater, food for work is our thing. Maybe that's why we get orders from 93% of Fortune 500 companies. So what's up with the other 7%?
So sorry the food is late.
You should order through EasyCater. Professionally delivered on time and as ordered.
Totally would, but the E is broken on my keyboard.
Just get IT to fix it.
Totally would. Can't type the word help.
Why don't all companies order through EasyCater? Who knows? Order 24/7 from over 95,000 restaurants on EasyCater.com. EasyCater, food for work. It's our thing.
Government regulations for HVAC systems are changing in 2023. What does that mean for you? It means the time to save is right now. Contact AAA Heating and Air, who must clear out their warehouse to make room for these new regulated systems. No deals will be turned down. Plus, you get a 15-year part and labor warranty, guaranteed financing. Anyone can get a brand new HVAC system as soon as tomorrow. That's AAA Heating and Air at 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Since 1964, Gateway Supply has been the Midland's leader in plumbing and HVAC supply, and now, of course, they are statewide with more than 15 locations all across South Carolina. Their showrooms are filled with bath and kitchen fixtures from classic to modern styles. Now, tap and touchless faucets. You can even talk to your kitchen sink. See them at Hamrick Street near the Fairgrounds in Williams-Brice, or Highway 6 and Whiteford Way in Lexington. Design services, expert advice for customers and contractors alike. Visit them online at gatewaysupply.net.
At the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm, we've seen how terrible accidents turn lives upside down, and we're proud to be the lawyers our clients depend on during their toughest moments. I'm Jason Reynolds. Call me when your family is faced with any serious injury or death.
And I'm Stephen Samuels. When you're hurt at work, I go to work, getting you the medical treatment and workers' compensation you depend on. We have the experience and passion you need when you need it most.
Samuels Reynolds. True injuries, true lawyers. 779-4000.
You haven't tasted real Carolina barbecue until you've experienced Little Pigs Barbecue. Full-service dine-in buffet with barbecue ribs, brisket, chicken, rice, hash, tomato pie, macaroni and cheese, and many more of your favorites. Eat in or take out. Little Pigs Barbecue on Alpine Road is open from 11 to 2 on Wednesday, 11 to 8 Thursday through Saturday, and 11 to 3 on Sunday. Little Pigs Barbecue on Alpine Road. Little Pigs family looks forward to seeing you soon.
From the four corners of the globe, the world's greatest set their sights on one goal. The Breeders' Cup World Championships coming to iconic Keeneland this November 4th and 5th. Over 2 days and 14 championship races, the pinnacle of international thoroughbred racing will put the most jaw-dropping, heart-pounding spectacle before your very eyes. Coverage begins Friday on USA, continues Saturday on USA and NBC. Visit breederscup.com/2022 to learn more. This message is brought to you by Discover. Did you know you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection? The latest innovation from Discover. Discover will help regularly remove your personal information like your name and address from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection. That's discover.com/online privacy protection.
Spooky season is here, and there's nothing scarier than dingy, dirty, crunchy carpet under your feet. Trust no one other than the cleaning experts at Zerez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning to save your home from the dirt monsters. With over 1,900 Google reviews and a 4.9 star rating, Zerez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is the most highly reviewed cleaning company in the Midlands. Take advantage of their fall sale going on now. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. Schedule your cleaning online, ZerezColumbia.com.
Got an appetite for football? Football Saturday and Sundays are back, and you can catch games all day at Twin Peaks. Grab a 29-degree draft and check out our scratch menu. Visiting during the week? No one does happy hour like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, we have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon menu category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu second to none. And don't forget about our 29-degree man-sized drafts.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
11:38 Tuesday morning, and welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Wes, Chris, Kendall, Smith as our special guest here with you in the Herndon Chevy studios of 107.5 The Game. We'll get back into some Carolina, Texas A&M thoughts, and then I've asked everybody to power rank the 7 SEC East teams. Not only just a fun exercise, but one that I think it's pretty difficult pretty quickly. We got a call to get to on the Love Chevy phone line, but first, it is the start of the NBA season, which I know is a national holiday for me, probably for Wes and Chris as well. But Kendall, you're from Charlotte. Did you grow up a Bobcat/Hornet fan at all?
So I actually grew up a Pacers fan. My family, they're from Indiana.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up a Pacers fan, but I would consider myself a Hornets fan to a certain degree. I covered the Hornets when I was in high school.
Oh, cool.
So I have a love in my heart for the Hornets, but I do remember them as the Bobcats too. I was like 4.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all iterations of them are pretty disappointing. And this year, actually, this is going to be a really terrible year for you because I think the Pacers and the Hornets are going to be competing for Wembanyama and the number 1 pick in the draft next year. So not
Can't
really a
win
fun
'em
time to
all.
be a Hornets fan, but
Can't win them all.
yeah, it's brutal. Anyway, that's not going to be one of your league pass teams like it was last year, but I don't know. Hornets fans, hang in there. Things probably won't get better, but
I'm a
that's what
Canes
fandom is.
fan, so at least the Canes are good.
Yeah,
in hockey. We'll
that's
get Wes
something.
and Chris on that train soon.
Yeah, we'll figure out what this hockey sport is in just a minute. Someone who definitely knows what hockey is our good friend Barry, who we love when he calls in. He's from New York, so he's probably watched his fair share of hockey. Barry, I think about you more as a basketball guy. I know you love baseball. Obviously, you got some football takes. Do you have any love for hockey in your life?
Yes, I do. I enjoy hockey very much, and you guys really need to bone up on the subject a little bit.
Yep.
Even the basic person needs to know that there's like 6 guys, 5 skaters, and a goalie. Two forwards, 2 defensemen, and a center. Sort of like other sports. I know hockey, but that's not why I called. We're talking about this week's game coming up. We're talking about a quarterback matchup. And we're talking about a quarterback in Haynes King who's thrown for less than 800 yards for the year. I'd be more worried about whoever was backing him up. And we're talking about a classic matchup of the 12th and 13th ranked SEC quarterbacks in the league. I hope you detected the little sarcasm there. With actually King being rated the 12th and Rattler being rated the 13th. With Rattler, the record would be no different with Doty so far this year. I expected to be, because I heard Spencer Rattler's name, 35 billion times in the offseason, there to be some sort of improvement, at least a 2-game improvement. And in my eyes, if they don't go and end up 8-4, they've wasted an absolute year of Doty's career. Wasted, absolutely wasted. So, and to say, and this is not rebutting anybody harshly, but to say Rattler is going to have a breakout game in his junior year at his second school, no. We played 3 non-conference games. The guy's got 5 TDs and 8 picks this year. So we have to tell it like it is. Sure, he can come out and throw for 405 touchdowns, but let's go by what he's done so far. Not been worth it, okay? And you're wasting Luke Doty or whoever else you got in the background. If they don't finish 8-4 this year, it was a total loss in bringing Rattler in. That's my opinion overall for the team in the future, quarterback-wise. And let's see what you guys got to say.
Barry, appreciate the call as always. I can't disagree in terms of the potential that will, again, kind of be left on the bone. I've overused that metaphor a little bit today. It's definitely been disappointing. What the Texas A&M and the Florida games, that's your path to 8 wins right there. And if he ends up being a key contributor for Carolina getting the win against Texas A&M, whatever that looks like, 405 touchdowns or, an efficient 250 and protecting the football or whatever, those are the moments it's hard to play the counterfactual of, if Luke Doty had been in there. To me, the fact that Spencer has been as inconsistent and just not very good as he has been this year, and the fact that it doesn't seem like Carolina has really earnestly considered putting Luke Doty in at any point probably tells you what the gap is between those 2 players. So you might be right at this point in terms of Luke and Spencer not representing a whole lot of difference in outcomes. But I still think Spencer gives you more of an upside just because of the arm talent, even if we haven't seen him be that productive this season. I feel like he lets you do more potentially.
I know Barry's already dropped off, but what is the 12th and 13th? Is that like QB rating, QBR? Like, what are we getting? Like, that was said pretty factually, like that Rattler's the 13th quarterback in the SEC, which, I mean, I'm guessing that's from some stat, but I don't know if I would call him actually the 13th quarterback in the SEC. And I think we've kind of we undervalued the amount of time it was going to take to adjust into a scheme that is completely different than what he was doing at Oklahoma. Did you find something over there?
I'm looking. I'm trolling SEC stat cat. There's a lot of sortable stats. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, going from a Lincoln Riley offense to any other offense you're going to be taking a step back. I understand that it takes time to make those adjustments and acclimate to new offenses, but I feel like the whole point of going and getting Spencer Rattler is because he was talented enough to, wasn't the idea just plug him into what you were doing? Like, what Marcus Satterfield sold was you plug in somebody like Spencer Rattler into what you were doing last year, and he's just hitting the throws that Carolina's quarterbacks were not making last year, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, ideally that's what you want, but I'm not sure if he was necessarily put in a position to go do that. And as we've talked about, I mean, I think this season, the story of this season is going to be told in these next 6 games. Like, South Carolina is very, very decidedly at a point where this season could completely go one way, where it's looked at as a completely disappointing season, or this season could go to a spot where everybody looks back on it as a highly successful season. Like, I feel like both avenues are directly in front of them. And, I think Rattler, for the most part, the last 3 weeks has done exactly what he was asked to do within this offense. Like, he's not been perfect, but I mean, the last 3 weeks, there were very few throws I feel like he missed. I think, 2 of the interceptions, as we talked about at the time, were not on him at all. If you look at SEC StatCat, the SC State game, he actually had 0 what they call turnover-worthy plays. So he had 2 turnovers by traditional stats, but he had no plays where he put the ball in danger, according to them. So or that might be PFF. I don't know, either one. But so I think whether or not he's able to show progress the final 6 games is really going to tell the story of this season. So I don't think it is far-fetched to think he could have a breakout year as he gets more comfortable in this offense, because let's not act like we didn't see Spencer Rattler throw for 3,000 yards in like a 10-game season at Oklahoma. So the ability is there. It's not far-fetched to say he could have his breakout game at South Carolina soon.
But I guess the problem is it's been a combination of those things. Like, he has not been very good when Carolina's asked him to do a lot, but you said he's kind of done what they've asked him to. He's kind of just been throwing screens the last couple games, which it's worked for South Carolina, but to beat Texas A&M, to beat Florida, to have a chance at some upsets later in the season, you're going to have to ask him to do more, and he's going to have to be able to do more, and they haven't seen that this year.
Yeah, well, I think I can't put that on Spencer Rattler. If he's doing what he's asked to do. Plus, there were a bunch of throws against Kentucky when he was asked to put the ball in spots and continue drives. There's a throw to Antoine Wells on a corner route. There was a throw to Jaheim Bell on 3rd down. There's a throw to Josh Van on 3rd and I think short, where they got about 5 yards, where he threw a quick out route out there. Not necessarily a play that is going to stand out as like a crazy throw, but if you look at the velocity he put on the ball, there's a guy in his face. Like, it's a solid play. So I think
all those throws that you mentioned, though, what they have in common is throwing down the field. And I think that's what we need to see more, even if it's still within the quick passing game. I think you just need to see him asked to do more things that stress an opposing defense. And that's on Marcus Satterfield and Shane Beamer.
Yeah. And I'm specifically just responding to the thought that it's crazy to think that Rattler could have a big game this week, basically, which is what Barry said.
So the 2 very quick points I would make is I don't see how you could legitimately watch the past few weeks and think that there has been no improvement from Spencer Rattler from the first couple games until now. And part of that improvement can be what he is being asked to do offensively. Obviously, it's worked. They've won the last 3 games. You could say, it's about the competition. They dominated Charlotte and SC State. They beat Kentucky. Everybody was taught Mike Leach is such a genius, right? Billy Napier is such a genius. They both lost to Kentucky. I don't care if they didn't have Will Levis or not. They lost. South Carolina won. They did enough. And Spencer Rattler had a couple bad plays in that game. He had the fumble, bad play. He had an execution error, not a decision error, in the ball to Stogner, right? But from what I see, in my opinion, I think he has improved and has gotten more comfortable. And the offense as a whole has now gotten more comfortable. Yes, do they need to throw the ball down the field? They will have to do that to win. They will have to execute the simple things better, because it will be harder to do so in the back half of the season than it was in the front half of the season, for the most part. Although we're forgetting they played Kentucky, who's really good, and Georgia, who's really good too, and a road game against Arkansas earlier in the year. So the other thing, Doty, I actually think it is not a waste to have Doty sitting this year. I think what we've seen early in Doty's career has actually been kind of the waste, if we want to go that far. 2020, he bounces back and forth between receiver and quarterback, has to come in at halftime in the middle of a game on a team that was not very good whatsoever, and he's asked to do that. Last year, 2021, he gets banged up before game one, so now he's injured. He's playing hurt at the beginning of the year, then he gets shut down later. Luke Doty has not had a year to properly develop, right? So I think this is actually a good thing for him going forward.
Yeah. 803-404-6100. Thanks for the call. Any more thoughts on Carolina and A&M, you can go ahead and get us on the text line or the Love Chevy phone line. Appreciate the call, Barry. Up against a break. We'll wrap things up here on the Gamecock Central Hour next.
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
I'm here with Jacob Crowder, known to our listeners as the mortgage guru. We're all hearing about mortgage rates right now. Jacob, what's the market telling you?
Now more than ever, it's important to know your mortgage banker. When working in a volatile market, it's important to be well informed and have the ability to move quickly. Working with a local bank gives you access to bank products and superior service. Here at First Palmetto, we have your best interest at heart and have the ability to get the job done. Call me today, 803-719-1005, or email me at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com.
It's good stuff, Jacob. Tell me more.
We are still seeing a competitive purchase market. Having a strong requalification from a local bank goes a long way with a tight market. With housing supplies still being minimal, we're doing a lot of construction loans. If you're looking to buy land and build on it, or if you're looking to build on land you already have, we're a great resource for construction loans. Call us today to discuss how we can help you. 803-719-1005 or email at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com.
In times like these, you need an expert. Call the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, 803-719-1005.
First Palmetto Bank is an equal housing lender, a member of FDIC, and all loans are subject to approval. My NMLS number is 198432.
The wait is over. New Chevys are on the lot now, and more are on the way to Herndon Chevrolet. These vehicles are in demand and selling fast, so don't miss out. Stop by your hometown Chevy dealer and shop all your favorite models at prices you'll love. Find new roads at Herndon Chevrolet or visit us online at herndonchevy.com today.
Herndon Chevrolet, Herndon makes you wanna smile, smile.
My dad has a cold, but also has high blood pressure. That's why I got him Vicks DayQuil High Blood Pressure for max strength daytime relief. Unlike some ordinary cold medicines, it's specially formulated for people like my dad. DayQuil High Blood Pressure is sugar-free, alcohol-free, and decongestant-free.
Vicks DayQuil High Blood Pressure. The daytime, non-drowsy, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, cold, and flu for people with high blood pressure.
Like my dad.
Medicine. Use as directed.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
There's just something different about Medicine Mart of West Columbia.
This is Claudia Satterfield. I choose Medicine Mart in West Columbia because of their incredible customer service, that they really care about the person instead of just the prescription. I go to them for all my vaccinations. I find that whether you're calling or you're going through there, you're in the drive-thru, you never feel rushed. You always feel like you're the only person there, and that just really means a lot to me.
Medicine Mart Pharmacy at 1300 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. They look forward to serving you.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. You'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. Results are guaranteed or your money back. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
All right, just a couple minutes left here in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Wes, Chris, Kendall here with you as our special guest today. Kendall, it's been an eventful show. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for having me. It has been eventful. I'm glad that I've been able to experience 107.5 in person. I've only ever called in to be on the show.
I know. Will you come back?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will 100% come back if you would have me back.
Yes, that would be great. We can learn more about hockey and, of course, get more of your football takes. Real quick, just as a clarifying matter, ESPN's total QBR is where Spencer Rattler is ranked 13th. Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, Stetson Bennett, Jackson Dart, Jaden Daniels, KJ Jefferson, AJ Swan, Will Rogers, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis 10, Brady Cook 11, Haynes King 12, Spencer Rattler 13, Robbie Ashford at Auburn 14. So that's where the number came from. We do not have time for our SEC power rankings. Who do all of you have first, though?
Georgia.
You still at Georgia first, Christopher?
Georgia.
Kendall?
I'll go with Georgia.
Yeah, all went Georgia. I thought somebody had to go Tennessee. Okay. All right. Here's what I want to know. Who do you have third?
Ooh.
This is where it gets really tricky. Wes and I were like really having a deep conversation
Okay,
about
so
this.
you have
This should have
Georgia.
been like 3 segments, but we got
You have Georgia
sidetracked.
and Tennessee, or Tennessee and Georgia,
Yes.
like period.
Mhm.
But so South Carolina obviously beat Kentucky, but Kentucky beat Florida. But Florida, you would probably right now give a slight edge over South Carolina.
Like, I can't put Kentucky
So-
ahead of South Carolina, but I think Kentucky might still be the third best team in the East. But I can't put Carolina third in the East. So I don't know what to do with that. And it's not Florida, and it's not Vanderbilt, and
But
it's
you
not
can't
Missouri.
put Florida. Yeah. So you basically there's a space,
Yes.
and then maybe it is South
5-way
Carolina.
tie for third.
Maybe it is South Carolina.
We'll find out this weekend. This Texas A&M game will go a long way in determining where South Carolina not only lands in the standings, but just kind of where the trajectory of this program continues. We're out of time here. I wish we had more time to dig into it. Kendall, really do appreciate you being here today. Hope you're back with us sooner rather than later. That will do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. For Wes and Chris and Kendall, I'm Pearson, and the halftime show with Jay's coming up next.